I've read that many, many times before, and I just remember thinking, I'm not even, I was completely confused by the whole thing. And if you look up Enoch's 10-week prophecy online, it's just chaos out there. So we kind of looked at it, and all three of us agreed on it's just like this time when I read it, it was just so clear what it was. I guess because we've grown in his grace and knowledge and can understand a little better what Enoch's saying. So, we wanted to go ahead and let you guys in on how we are interpreting this. And then you guys on your own can read through it and see what you think as well. And it's interesting because this is another example of the order of chapters. You need to read Enoch 93, and then it goes back, jumps back to Enoch 91. Interesting, but just more proof that stuff's all over the place. Um, so how do y'all want to do this? Do you want to take it piece by piece or read all of chapter 93 and then go through it? What do y'all think?
I think let's go ahead and read it and then we'll go through it. That
Okay.
way, yeah, that way we've
But
got the,
I kind of think we should read it in the proper order the first go arounds.
yeah, starting in 93,
Yeah.
then to 91. Yeah, I agree.
So,
I
and I do want to throw this out there because when you start with 91, okay, so let me just say this and we'll start reading it because this will help, I think, folks straighten it out in their mind. Christina and Linda never thought this. I was the only one dumb enough to think this. But I think a lot of people present it where the 10 weeks have to be equal time. You know, kind of like Yah's 7 weeks, it's either 7 days or 7 years, right? And when he says a week, that amount of time doesn't move scripturally. But in Enoch's case, I'm even wondering if week was even there originally, or if somebody just took the term era, era, or stage, or something like that, and turned it
uh-huh.
into a week to hide that these 10 weeks are not equally spaced in time. So, and we will prove that out to you guys, but if you have that in your head starting out, it helps a lot. In other words, what I'm saying is week 8 isn't the same amount of time as week 2 necessarily. Does that make sense?
Yep, it's not like the times that we found in Ezra, in 4 Ezra,
Right.
where you could actually pick out and say 1,000 years. It's not like
Right.
that.
Right. So one might be 2,000 years, week 8, not, but I'm just saying, for example, and week 2 might be 1,000 years. They're
Right.
not the same. It's not equally divisible by these 10 weeks. So, all right. So let's start. Let's read chapter 93. Christina, you want to go ahead and read that?
I would be happy to. And before I do want to say that the R.H. Charles that I own, they did put it in the correct order, even though it starts off with 93. Mine starts with 93 and then it goes into 91. Okay. And after that, Enoch both gave and began to recount from the books. And Enoch said, concerning the children of righteousness, and concerning the elect of the world, and concerning the plant of righteousness, I will speak these things. Yea, I, Enoch, will declare them unto you, my sons, according to that which appeared to me in the heavenly vision, and which I have known through the word of the holy angels, and have learnt from the heavenly tablets. And Enoch began to recount from the books and said, I was born in the seventh in the first week, while judgment and righteousness still endured. And after me there shall arise in the second week great wickedness, and deceit shall have sprung up. And in it there shall be the first end. And in it a man shall be saved, and after it is ended, unrighteousness shall grow up, and a law shall be made for the sinners. And after that, in the third week at its close, a man shall be elected at the plant of, as the plant of righteousness. Oh, sorry. And man shall be elected as the plant of righteous judgment, and his posterity shall become the plant of righteousness forevermore. And after that, in the fourth week at its close, visions of the holy and righteous shall be seen, and a law for all generations, and an enclosure shall be made for them. And after that, in the fifth week at its close, the house of glory and dominion shall be built forever. And after that, in the sixth week, all who live in it shall be blinded, and the hearts of all of them shall godlessly forsake wisdom. And in it a man shall ascend, and at its close the house of dominion shall be burnt with fire, and the whole race of the chosen root shall be dispersed. And after that, in the seventh week, shall an apostate generation arise, and many shall be its deeds, and all its deeds shall be apostate. And at its close shall be elected the elect righteous of the eternal plant of righteousness, to receive sevenfold instruction concerning all his creation. For who is there of all the children of men that is able to hear the voice of the Holy One without being troubled? And who can think his thoughts? And who is there that can behold all the works of heaven? And how should there be one who could behold the heaven? And who is there that could understand the things of heaven, and see a soul or a spirit, and could tell thereof, or ascend and see all their ends, and think them or do like them? And who is there of all men that could know what is the breadth and the length of the earth, and to whom has been shown the measure of all of them? Or is there any one who could discern the length of the heaven, and how great is its height, and upon what it is founded, and how great is the number of stars, and where all the luminaries rust?
Okay, and as we read that, I'm sure you guys can see a lot of these events as well, but so I'm just gonna skip to when it talks about each week. So if you go to 93 verse 3, and it says, and Enoch began to recount from the books, and he stated, I was born in the seventh, in the first week, while judgment and righteousness still endured. So obviously, to me, that's prior to the angels coming into the women. So yes, Cain, Cain was there, but it hadn't completely gone off the cliff, like you know, you would say when the angels came to town and started creating the Nephilim. So, and then y'all stop me. Any questions or comments you want to add in, but we'll keep trucking. Okay, and then verse 4 talks about, and after me there shall arise in the second week great wickedness. And then, so I believe that great wickedness is, you know, what Genesis 6 talks about with the fallen angels coming into women and having Nephilim, children. And then it talks about, and deceit shall have sprung up. So now you have these fallen angels teaching the Son of Man all these secrets, right? Things that they weren't supposed to get involved with. Metals, cutting of roots, etc. You know, Enoch talks about all that stuff. And in it there shall be the first end. And in it a man shall be saved. So this, of course, is Noah and the ark, of course. And after it is ended, the flood, unrighteousness shall grow up, and a law shall be made for the sinners. So if you
And
go back, oh, go ahead.
I was just going to give a date for that. So, and in it there shall be the first end. So the flood will, would have occurred in 67 or 1677 AM or 2323 BC. And this was after the second Passover when Noah was shut up in the ark and then the end came.
So, so this is still in the second week, by the way. And then it talks about, and in it there shall be the first in, okay, I'm sorry. Unrighteousness shall grow up, and a law shall be made for the sinners. So Jubilees talks about this too, that Noah fully taught his sons, right? And then Jubilees makes it pretty clear that upon Noah's death, even Shem, they just kind of they didn't continue in keeping the holy days and they just kind of did their own thing. So I forget where that's documented, but Jubilees straight up lays it out.
Mitzi,
Yeah.
I'm reading along in the Sefer, and during the second week in mine, the footnote says under Holy Angels in the second week, it says the Qumran text reads watchers and holy ones, clearly denoting heavenly watchers who did not fall, along with the wicked ones. And then it says, see also Daniel 4:13, a watcher and a holy one came down from heaven. 4:17, watchers and holy ones.
Is this Dr. Pigeon's? I think it is the Sefer by Dr. Pigeon.
I don't know. It was given to me by Adam Fink.
Okay, I think the Sefer is by Dr. Pigeon. So I know that there's been some things that
I
have been
think
changed
so.
in there. Yeah.
I think it might I think you're right. I think it is. So, um but I don't have any of the other books other than what's in the Sefer. All I have is my New King James version of the Bible, um, and then I have the Sefer that has Enoch and the other texts in it.
Right, right. And from what I understand, there was some things that got changed in there.
Hmm.
And so I would probably see if you could get a hold of the 54 book Apocrypha. It's runs about $25 on Amazon and it gives you Enoch, Jubilees.
Oh yeah,
Um,
okay.
yeah,
Dominique is recommending online, yeah, scriptures also. It's free to download.
Okay, yeah, I kind of like to have one to where I can just read and underline and study.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd really like to have one of those. You said it's on Amazon? Could
Yeah,
somebody?
I'll share the link with you. I'll share it in the chat.
That would be great. Thank you so much, Linda.
No problem.
yeah,
Yeah, the Sapphire, I have heard from multiple sources that
mhm,
there's some errors in there you got to be careful of.
right.
You
And the
know.
fact that this particular author prefers the globe model as opposed to the
Um,
biblical, and that got changed as well.
yeah, y'all
Oh.
kind of led me away from even seeing or hearing from that group altogether. I don't even, so I haven't picked up this Bible in quite some time. So I just thought I would just read that footnote there.
Yeah, no
Yeah.
problem, no
Okay.
Yeah.
problem.
Hey, like we just discussed, there's error in all of them. We're
Yeah.
not saying that, but
Okay.
yeah, and it's in Parable of the Vineyard. I was there for a while as well. So
Yeah.
I
Okay.
hear you. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much for sharing that with me, Linda.
Yep, you got it.
Thanks.
And if you want to use a different store to purchase in, but at least you have the reference to the book and you know what to look
Yes, I would really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
So, and now that is the end of the second week. And then verse 5 starts the third week. And after that, in the third week, at its close, so toward the end of the third week, so this man that's elected as the plant of righteous judgment, well, of course, that's Abraham, right?
And he
Um,
and he was born in 1969 AM.
okay, 1969.
And his posterity, Isaac, was born in 2069.
Okay. And then, of course,
2069.
his posterity is Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Israel, and then ultimately Yahusha.
Right.
So that's what it's talking about there. Okay, verse 6 gets into, and after that, in the fourth week, at its close, here again at the end, visions of the holy and righteous shall be seen. To me, that's Yahusha on Mount Sinai, right? And the 70 elders and Moses, Aaron, and his two sons that got killed, they went up there on Pentecost and had supper with Yahusha and they saw him, right? And ate
And
with.
can I just add to like specifically right there, a law for all generations is what my version says. That's the royal law book of the covenant, specifically what was said on Sinai on 115.
Right. And then of course that enclosure made for them is the Ark of the Covenant,
Mhm.
which Moses made.
Right.
And
And the
that was
law, the added law sat beside it outside of the ark. That was
and
the Levitical
yeah,
additions.
and this was in 2410 AM. And this section here that I see is covering the 40 years of the wilderness journey, if you will. So the timing of that is 2410 AM to 2450 AM.
So now we're moving on to the fifth week, verse 7. And after that, so a lot of time's elapsed here. In the fifth week, at its close, the house of glory and dominion shall be built forever. So this is the first temple or Solomon's temple, we believe is talking about there.
Yep. And the foundation was laid in 2890 AM or 1110 BC. And then the temple was finished in 1099 BC or 2901 AM.
Okay. Now we're moving on to the sixth week, which is verse 8. And after that, in the sixth week, all who live in it shall be blinded. So this is Israel, right? The one nation who knew the true Yah. They become blinded, and the hearts of all of them shall godlessly forsake wisdom. And in it a man shall ascend, and that, of course, is Yahusha, his death, burial, and resurrection. He ascended. And remember that scripture, no one has ascended to heaven except the Son who has come from heaven.
And I'd also like to give the date of the sixth week when Yah ended the kings of Israel, which is 682 BC, which is 3318 AM. and that would be the 68th Jubilee. And Yahusha ascended in 30 AD, and the temple was destroyed in 70 AD.
Yeah, and at its close, the house of dominion shall be burnt with fire, which is what Christina's talking about, the destruction of that final temple by the Romans in 70 AD. And the whole race of the chosen root, or Israel, including the northern and southern tribes, all 12 tribes, shall be dispersed. So that's the dispersion. Okay, now that ends the 6th week. So, verse 9, and after that, in the 7th week. Now, I believe we are currently in the 7th week right now and very, very, very close to the end of it. So, and after that, in the 7th week, shall an apostate generation arise. So, this is the culmination of wickedness that the world has never seen before. I honestly, it probably is going to surpass the flood, but that's an opinion. But I think it's true because scripture says that the great tribulation, no other time is like it, nor ever has been or shall be. So I think Yah kind of, he states that in his word.
Also, it states that it's worse than in the days of Noah.
And that you think about that. That's saying, wow, that's hard to wrap your head around. So this is an apostate generation, and many shall be its deeds, and all its deeds shall be apostate. And I think it's clear that's where we are right now. Pretty much everything everybody believes is a lie. You have wars, you have our own government is trying to kill us at every turn. The air's poison, the water's poison, the earth is poison, the food is poison. It's lie after lie after lie, and they haven't even got it cranked up yet, right? So, oh, and then and I think about all the things that have been done, and we kind of agree, right, that this is the final so-called reset, but they've done it in the past. You have Tartaria, you have the orphan trains, you have all these things that have gone on that we can't even begin to fully understand what's happened
Mm,
since since 70 AD.
What's really interesting is because they've had their successes before in previous eras, I'm sure that they're really believing now that even though they build their underground bunkers, they're going to be saved out of it. But Yah knows where they're at, and Yah knows how to reach them.
Yeah, and just sorry, this is like probably everybody, maybe you all have figured this out too, but to me, I feel like the race to build all these data centers is to provide energy for the underground bunkers. That's, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how it all connects. I don't know, but it just kind of makes sense. Like they are r- desperately just trying to build these as fast as possible everywhere they can.
They know that Yah is going to absolutely destroy the surface of the earth. But personally, I also think they're going to get the bottom. He's going to reach to the bottom this time. So there's no saving themselves. There's no saving themselves.
Yeah, and Dominique, I mean, they could have multiple purposes. Like she said, FEMA camps. I
Yep.
don't doubt it. They're after
Yep.
that. And also the control system for the 15-minute jails we're going into. I know in our neighborhood, they've already put up flock cameras at
Mhm.
all the entrances and exits. There's cameras on all the stoplights around here, not for anything other than
to see
check,
who's coming or going.
yes, you, your car, and your license plate.
Well,
So,
sorry, I don't want to go on like a total like off the rails here, but like the data centers, we know what they tell us they are, but I totally agree with you, Dominique. Like to me, it what is the overarching what they are is just energy harvesting. So whether that is to store people to harvest their energy or to store, I don't know what they're doing. Like I have no, I'm not gonna pretend like I know, but like that's kind of what it does seem like. It's for their purposes to just be able to get through what's coming.
yep. We're going to be their drone bees, and when they're done with us, they'll kill us.
And hopefully that we will be out before that happens. Um, I'm hoping that we're going to hear the call from Yah very, very soon. We're ready for that journey. Uh we know that we're going to be going through an amazing uh crossing to get to where we need to go. And with all of the things that they're putting in place right now, it feels like it's going to be impossible, but we know that it's not. We know that Father is going to make miracles happen again.
Yeah. He's done it before, so we know we can
Absolutely.
trust him.
Yeah, he said these would be even greater miracles, right?
Yep.
Okay, so I'm pretty sure we're in week 7 right now. And then as we keep reading, it says, and at its close. Now, we'll get to be able to prove this, but I think week 7 includes from 70 AD and the dispersion of Israel through the return of Yahusha is
I
the
have that too. Yes.
okay. So,
Yep.
and we will get into that and we'll attach some more scriptures, but I just wanted to make that clear. Week 8 does not start until the millennial reign. And that becomes clear in chapter 91, but I just wanted to throw that out there for now. So, and at its close shall be elected the elect righteous of the eternal plant of righteousness. So that's a fancy way to say the bride shall be chosen for Yahusha. He is the plant of righteousness. Um, to receive sevenfold instruction concerning all his creation. And then the details that are given here to me are obviously pointing to a resurrected bride, full son of Elohim in spirit, because humans can't do this, it speaks of to hear the voice of the Holy One, which is the Father, which according to scripture, no one has heard the voice of the Father, only Yahusha, without being troubled. And who can think his thoughts? So his spirit is a piece of him, and he leads us into all truth through his Holy Spirit. But we literally have his mind once we're resurrected, full sons of Elohim. And Yahusha spoke of that, I think it's in John 17. I and you and me, and us in him, meaning the Father, meaning that we will be like him, right? Rachel says, where does it say no one has heard Yahweh? Let me look that up real fast. I think John said it, no one has seen his form or heard his voice. Sorry, I should have looked all this reference stuff up before.
It's John 5:37.
Yeah.
And the
And the
Father
Father,
himself,
yeah,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. And the Father himself who sent me has testified of me. You have neither heard his voice at any time nor seen his form. That's John 5:37. So Elohim of the Old Testament is Yahusha. Nobody ever saw or talked to the Father. It was always the Word. Okay. So, and then it's all, I think it's in John 17, but you guys can find that where we will literally have his mind, his thoughts. You know how Satan's trying to produce hive mind right now? It is
Yep.
another counterfeit of the Father's Holy Spirit that the Father, the Son, and the bride will be of one mind, right? One Elohim. Just like in Deuteronomy, it talks about there is one Elohim. When we know the Father and the Son are both Elohim, and the bride will be Elohim, but what he's trying to say, they are of one mind. They have one mind, one will. They are completely yoked together in thought, heart, and mind and goal, right? Yes, you will retain your own personality, your own character, but you will have life inherent, right? You will see the Father as he is because you will be like him.
And we won't be able to sin.
Right. You will be incapable of sin. You will have his mind. You won't be fumbling around for the right words or understand what the right thing to do is. You will automatically have his mind and insight. Now, no one will ever be greater than the Father. Then comes the Son. Then below him, his bride. It's the same hierarchy. And then the children are, of course, below the kings and priests. But so, and that's kind of what Enoch is talking about. Who can think his thoughts? Nobody but the son and the bride can think the father's thoughts because they will have the same mind. And who is there that can behold all the works of heaven? And we've talked about this before, how only the bride will be able to ascend to heaven because she will be born fully into a spirit body. Not the second resurrection, only the first. So you cannot see the Father or the Son in full power and glory of their spirit body unless you are also of that spirit body. And how should there be one who could behold the heaven? We would we Revelation 14 tells us where we'll be standing after we're resurrected. Right there in front of the throne, surrounded by the four living creatures, all of it. And who is there that can understand the things of heaven and see, literally see a soul or a spirit? Again, we will be able to see and understand just like the Father and the Son. I say we, that's what I hope. Do I know? I'm just, okay, the bride, I'll say that. The bride will be able to see and understand everything the Father and Son sees and understands and can tell thereof or ascend. Just like after Yahusha's resurrection, he could ascend to heaven, he came back and forth. We know from the New Testament, he went back and forth many times, right? During those 40 days that he was with them before he ascended the last time, 10 days prior to Shavuot or Pentecost. So the bride will be able to do that too. Sorry, go ahead, Jesse.
I kind of like the term we.
Well, yeah. I did. I mean, I'm just,
I know what you're
yeah,
saying.
yeah. People are like, well, who are you to think? Yeah, yeah, I agree. Okay. And see all their ends and think them or do like them, right? And then so in this reminds me of Job, verse 13. And who is there of all men that could know what is the breadth, the length of the earth, and to whom has been shown the measure of all before them? I think Yahusha's basically telling Job, who are you? You don't know, you don't know the length, the breadth, the depth, the foundation of the earth. No, he didn't. No man can. but the resurrected bride will know. Again, there's that proof she'll have his mind. Or is there anyone who can discern the length of heaven, how great its height, upon what it is founded, and how great is the number of the stars, and where all the luminaries rest? So again, scripture tells us who's going to be judging the angels, the bride. So just a beautiful explanation of just what awaits the bride if she can, you know, called, chosen, and faithful and persevere till the end. So it's really unbelievable.
Yeah, that is truly a desire. Ugh.
Did I miss any comments we need to talk about? Okay. Any questions or comments about chapter 93? Then we can move on to 91. And you'll
And
see why. Oh, go ahead, Christina.
no, 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 go ahead, go ahead.
I was just gonna say when we start reading 91, you'll understand why we read 93 first.
Yep.
Interesting.
You want me to go ahead and read that or?
Sure, sure.
Okay. And after that there shall be another, the 8th week, that of righteousness, and a sword shall be given to it, that a righteous judgment may be executed on the oppressors.
Hold it, Christina. Where are you?
I know, I was just going to ask
Oh,
this.
wait a minute. Yeah. And after that there shall be another, the 8th week, that
Well,
of
you started in
righteousness.
verse 12 according to mine. Do you?
Oh, I see. Okay, you're
Yeah,
right. I should have been going back this way.
yeah.
Sorry about
So,
that.
so, so verses 1 through 11 proves that up through Armageddon is still considered the seventh week. So if you don't
Okay.
mind, just start at verse 1.
Yep, gotcha. And now, my son Methuselah, call to me all thy brothers, and gather together to me all the sons of thy mother. For the word calls me, and the Spirit is poured out upon me, that I may show you everything that shall befall you forever. And thereupon Methuselah went and summoned to him all his brothers and assembled his relatives. And he spake unto all the children of righteousness and said, Hear, ye sons of Enoch, all the words of your father, and hearken aright to the voice of my mouth. For I exhort you and say unto you, Beloved, love uprightness and walk therein. And draw not nigh to uprightness with a double heart, and associate not with those of a double heart, but walk in righteousness, my sons. And it shall guide you on good paths, and righteousness shall be your companion. For I know that violence must increase on the earth, and a great chastisement be executed on the earth, and all unrighteousness come to an end. Yea, it shall be cut off from its roots, and its whole structure be destroyed. And unrighteousness shall again be consummated on the earth. And all the deeds of unrighteousness and of violence and transgression shall prevail in a twofold degree. And when sin and unrighteousness and blasphemy and violence and all kinds of deeds increase, and apostasy and transgression and uncleanness increase, a great chastisement shall come from heaven upon all these. And Yahuwah Elohim will come forth with wrath and chastisement to execute judgment on earth. In those days, violence shall be cut off from its roots, and the roots of unrighteousness together with deceit, and they shall be destroyed from under heaven. And all the idols of the heathen shall be abandoned, and the temples burned with fire. And they shall remove them from the whole earth. And they, the heathen, shall be cast into the judgment of fire, and shall perish in wrath and in grievous judgment forever. And the righteous shall arise from their sleep, and wisdom shall arise and be given unto them. And after that, the roots of unrighteousness shall be cut off, and the sinners shall be destroyed by the sword, shall be cut off from the blasphemers in every place, and those who plan violence and those who commit blasphemy shall perish by the sword. Okay, now
Okay, all
I'm
right, pause right there. So
okay.
all of that kind of goes in. Well, okay, so what I call the introduction to the whole 10 weeks starts in verse 1 and then goes through verse 4, I would say, and then verse 5 through 11 goes back, plugs into week 7.
So
And
now
then,
you can, sorry. So now you can see another example of things getting mixed up again, right?
yeah, yeah. And then, so obviously, verse 11, destroyed by the sword, that's Armageddon, right? When the blood comes up to the horse's bridle and goes, that's in the end of Revelation. Um, so that is the end of Armageddon. And then verse 12 picks back up in the eighth week, right? And that's where we left off in Enoch in chapter 93. So I just wanted to, so I think a lot of folks get confused about what's going on because of how it's laid out. So okay, sorry, Christina. So now go ahead with 12, and then that'll be the eighth week on.
No worries. And after that there shall be another, the eighth week, that of righteousness, and a sword shall be given to it, that a righteous judgment may be executed on the oppressors, and sinners shall be delivered into the hands of the righteous. And at its close they shall acquire houses through their righteousness, and a house shall be built for the great king in glory forevermore. And all mankind shall look to the path of uprightness. And after that, in the ninth week, the righteous judgment shall be revealed to the whole world. And all the works of the godless shall vanish from all the earth, and the world shall be written down for destruction. And after this, in the 10th week, in the 7th part, there shall be the great eternal judgment, in which he will execute vengeance amongst the angels. And the first heaven shall depart and pass away, and a new heaven shall appear. And all the powers of the heavens shall give sevenfold light. And after that, there will be many weeks without number forever. And all shall be in goodness and righteousness, and sin shall no more be mentioned forever.
Hey, Christina, so the statement, and all mankind shall look to the path of uprightness, my version has it in a different place than yours. Mine
Oh,
has it at
interesting.
the end of verse 14, which I think is correct. And we can go through, kind of explain why.
Oh, and you know what they, yeah, this actually, I I do not know why they wrote it in this order that they did, but it is clear that it is D. So it starts off with 14A on the next page, and after that, in the ninth week. That is very strange. Yeah, and they wrote it. This was presented in its original form, and so they're showing that what I read first in 14 should actually be D, and I did not recognize that. But
Okay.
we're just, again, we're seeing how they moved things around to confuse the time frame.
And is
It
there any wonder people are confused?
exactly.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, so
yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say that the first sentence in mine in 14, which says, and all mankind shall look to the path of righteousness, that should be the last sentence in 14, verse 14.
Correct. Yeah, I think that's the correct
Wait,
version.
okay, sorry. I have Timothy Schwab's.
Yeah, me too. I
Okay,
think
all
it's
right. So you're saying
correct.
yours is written in the correct order, Mitzi?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I just wanted to point out also that so Christina's version, you have it in the proper order, correct, Christina? Like they put 93 before 91?
They put, what they did was they put 91 first, part of it, the first part that I read after 93, they put that first. Then 93, and then they put in verse 12 of 91 after 93.
Yeah, okay. I like that. I think that's fine. Well, I guess what we're saying is that the beginning of 91 is also day 7. So I kind of feel like all of it should have been rearranged. But for everyone that has Timothy Schwab, I think there's a lot of us in here. On the bottom of on I think some of them are numbered differently, but I'm on 243 for chapter 93, and it says at the bottom of the page Enoch's 7 weeks, not 10 exclamation point. So I just crossed that out because Timothy Schwab leaves it in the order that it was presented, 91, 92, 93, and he believes that there's only 7 weeks. But if I don't understand why he left all these weeks highlighted in his version in verse 91. He has the eighth week in verse 12, the ninth week in verse 14, and then the 10th week in verse 15. Maybe he has changed his understanding and he's back because we change our mind all the time. Maybe the God culture has too, but I just don't want that big note to confuse anyone. There are 10 weeks according to this. They're just not in the right order.
Well,
Yeah,
those
I
10
agree.
weeks would line up with Christina's 14-day of creation, which the 10th week would come out to what? The end of the 13th day of creation, and then starting the 14th day with a new heaven
Right,
and a
but
new earth.
it's not in equal amounts of time.
No. That's kind of what we were saying to start with. Don't try to make it equal in time because it's just not. I think this is based on major occurrences of major events in Yah's timeline, more so than equal amounts of time passing by. And I think right here proves it. The end in chapter 91, verses 12 through the end, 17, you have the eighth week, ninth week, and 10th week, and it's all in a little over 1,000 years because
Okay,
it goes, yeah.
sorry, I'm so sorry. I'm just reading right now that Timothy Schwab's title of verses 12 through 17 in chapter 91, he has the last 3 weeks of the tribulation. So go ahead and cross that out too.
Yeah. This goes without saying, but
Yeah.
there's a lot we don't agree with as far as the comments on here. Because if you follow his comments, you'll be completely confused. So when I read it, I made sure not to even look at it until I felt like I had a good handle of what was actually going on. And then I read his comments, and I'm thinking, wow, you know, I wouldn't recommend looking at any of these comments.
Right. And a lot of it is if you don't have the priestly order, it's harder to understand what is to come or and even what was.
So we'll go ahead and break down these 3 weeks. So again, week 8 starts at the millennial reign, right? And then it ends after the great white throne judgment. So just keep that in mind, and we'll try to let's start with verses 12 through 13. So this is the eighth week. The beginning is the millennial reign, and I believe it ends with Ezekiel's temple being built. So let's read it. There shall be another, the eighth week, that of righteousness. So, of course, the millennial reign, all the wicked have been destroyed or thrown in the pit, right? Satan and all the minions are in the pit. And a sword will be given to it that a righteous judgment may be executed. This is Yahusha ruling with the rod of iron. There's going to be no shenanigans anymore.
And you're in
Okay,
verse 13?
I'm still in 12.
Okay.
And then that judgment may be executed on the oppressors, and sinners shall be delivered into the hands of the righteous. Okay, there's scriptures that talk about that he will give judgment to some of the kings, to his bride, and also some repentant wicked folks will be servants to the house of Israel. That's in scripture. I don't have them written down right now, but just from memory, I know that's what's going on, and I'm pretty sure that's what he's referencing there. Okay, and at its close, verse 13, they shall acquire houses. So they're going to be so they have to clean up. We've talked about this before, showing the priestly order. It takes them 21 years to clean up, right? And then to rebuild their houses, start fixing everything, and then, of course, to build the millennial temple. And a house shall be built for the great king of course, that's Yahusha, in glory forevermore. And that's referenced, of course, in Ezekiel 40 through 48, that
And
glorious temple.
right, and the temple will be finished by 2050, which is the beginning of day 7.
Right. Even though technically the millennial reign begins at his return, right? It goes from 2029 to 3029 and then gives 3 weeks or 21 years for Satan's little season, and then 1 week or 7 years for the great white throne judgment. Okay, so that is everything that occurs in the 8th week. So, roughly from 2029, Day of Atonement, the daylight portion, through the completion of Ezekiel's millennial temple, 2050 is the 8th week. So now we move into 14. And after that, in the 9th week, the righteous judgment shall be revealed to the whole world. So for me, it's pretty clear when now if you go to Revelation 20, you can walk through all this. So of all not the folks living into the millennial reign, of course they will have seen the righteous judgment of Yahusha's return. But all the babies that are going to be born from that point forward, all they're going to be able to do is hear about what happened. They won't have seen anything. Satan's put away, all wicked men are killed, righteous judgment, one religion, one language, one truth, one way, not all the mass confusion going on right now. They'll probably have a hard time believing the stories they hear. Kind of like we'll have a hard time imagining how glorious the millennial reign is,
It's
right?
going to be just as hard for them as it is for people now to believe the truth.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
right. So when you think about it, so once Yahusha puts down Satan, all wicked men, the demons, the fallen angels, there's going to be peace. Finally, peace, no war, no arguments, only truth and righteous judgment. That's all these kids are going to have ever known. So when is the first time they're going to see Yahusha just come down hard on a large group of people after Satan's little season, right? Go back and study Ezekiel 38. That is Satan's little season. And it says, as the sands of the sea is the number of people once Satan's released for his little season come to surround Jerusalem with Satan and his army. And it's very clear that they're going to end up fighting each other. And then the Father is going to rain down coals of fire and stones from heaven, much like Sodom and Gomorrah, and completely pulverize them. And it says that everyone's going to see the anger in Yahusha's face when they surround Jerusalem. So that is the righteous judgment that shall be revealed to the whole world. They're going to watch it happen, and many, many, many people, even though the bride and Yahusha himself will have warned them for many, many hundreds of years. Here's what's going to happen when he's released. He is very deceptive, and I guess they're not going to believe it, or their experience is not going to be such that they're going to be, a lot of them, unless they are completely loving the truth and loving his way of life, they're going to be turned over to be deceived.
That's
It's
why
sad.
yeah,
Sorry.
that's why it's going to be so much easier for Hasatan to um, deceive the people so quickly. Think about the garden. The first day he went in was the first day they fell within minutes. So imagine the billions of people, which I imagine will truly be on the earth, that he'll be able to deceive at a drop of a hat within 21 years. It's not going to take much, especially with those who have never witnessed what we're going through right now.
And I'm referencing Ezekiel 38 again. So I think that's what's talking about Satan's little season. Ezekiel 38, verse 10, here it is. Starting in verse 9, here Satan's loose. You will ascend, coming like a storm, covering the land like a cloud. You and all your troops and many peoples with you. Thus says Yah, on that day it shall come to pass that thoughts will arise in your mind, and you will make an evil plan. They don't understand that it's going to be hard for them to understand that literally Satan starts messing with your mind, right? You will say, I will go up against a land of unwalled villages. This cannot be Armageddon. There's no unwalled villages now. Everybody's got their locks, their armies, right? I will go to a peaceful people who dwell safely, all of them dwelling without walls and having neither bars nor gates. What to do what? Verse 12, to take plunder, to take booty, to stretch out your hand against the waste places that are again inhabited, and against a people gathered from the nations, who have acquired livestock and goods, who dwell in the midst of the land. These people have become very, very wealthy at the end. And it goes on. Um, Verse 15, I'll skip there. Then you will come from your place out of the far north, you and many people with you, all of them riding on horses, a great company and a mighty army. You will come against my people Israel like a cloud to cover the land. It will be in the latter days, I will bring you up against my land so that the nations may know me when I am hallowed in you, O Gog, before their eyes, says Yah Elohim. Are you of he whom I have spoken in former days by my servants, the prophets of Israel, who prophesied for years in those days that I would bring you against them? And it will come to pass at the same time when God comes against the land of Israel, says Yah, that my fury will show in my face. For in my jealousy and in the fire of my wrath I have spoken. And then it goes on, and he says, skipping to verse 22, and I will bring him to judgment with pestilence and bloodshed. I will rain down on him and on his troops and on the many peoples who are with him, the folks deceived coming to fight against Israel to take their wealth, because Satan has made them covetous and jealous. Flooding rain and great hailstones, fire and brimstone. Thus I will magnify myself and sanctify myself, and I will be known in the eyes of many nations. Then they shall know that I am the eternal. And that's exactly what Enoch's talking about here. The righteous judgment shall be revealed to the whole world, the nations, because they've never seen him do this. And Satan has them doubting that he will do anything. They've never seen it. Why would they? And they're jealous because Israel is what? The leading nation. Why is this great temple in the middle of Israel? Why are they the leading nation? You need a piece of that. That's what Satan's going to tell them. Why don't you go and take some of their glorious land and gold? And you could have just imagined how it's going to go. And then I'll tie all that. It's also in Ezekiel 14, I believe, the second half. I'm sorry, Zechariah. Um, and then of course it's talked about in Revelation 20. It says, now when the 1,000 years have expired, Satan will be released from his prison and will go out to, here we go, deceive the nations, verse 8, which are in the four corners of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle, whose number is as the sand of the sea. They went up on the breadth of the earth, surrounded the camp of the saints. Where is that? Jerusalem, of course, and the beloved city, and fire came down from Elohim out of heaven and devoured them. So you can see how all that fits perfectly together. So they're going to be in shock, complete shock of how many people, loved ones, family members, leaders of nations are going to fall for this. And then they're going to see what Yah does to them. And it's gonna cause some confusion and consternation for a while, right? You could imagine. Let's see. Let me give you the right scriptures in Zechariah. So, you can go back and put all this together because it's really, really important to understand this. Because I think a lot of folks get confused how all this rolls. So Gog and Magog are not humans, they are angelic beings. Yes, they're around in Armageddon, and yes, they're released again after the 1,000 years are finished with Satan. Okay. All right. So Zechariah 14, 1 through 9 is Armageddon. And then 11 through the rest of the chapter is basically Satan's little season. So you'll see starting in verse 11 of Zechariah 14, the people shall dwell in it, and no longer shall there be utter destruction, but Jerusalem shall be safely inhabited. That
I
sounds just like Ezekiel 38.
Yeah, and what I really think is really cool about this is Enoch 91:14 describes Zechariah 14.
Yeah.
So it's bringing it together.
Yes. Yeah, so let's go ahead and read that. And after that, in the ninth week, so we talked about that, the righteous judgment, which is after Satan's left to do his thing for a while, that righteous judgment from Yahusha comes down on all of them, and all the works of the godless shall vanish from all the earth. So what does Yah use Satan and his demons and fallen angels for over and over and over? To sift the hearts of men. If your heart is not right with Yah, he's going to sift your butt out, and Yah lets him, because only the righteous are going to be left. The ones whose heart is for Yah and who loves him and loves his truth are the only ones that are going to be left standing when this is all over. So it says, and the world shall be written down for destruction. So now so the 1,000 years is finished, Satan has been loosed, and there's precious little time left for the great white throne judgment. And all of mankind shall look to the path of uprightness. So that was their last warning
I don't know where
shot.
she's at.
I'm sorry. I'm back in Enoch. I'm in Enoch chapter 91, and we're reading 14. And
Oh, okay. All right. Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah, and what Christina brought up is that is a direct tie to not only Ezekiel 38, but also Zechariah 14, verses 11 through 21. So now I'm going to go back to Zechariah 14, starting in 11, and tie it to this verse 14 here in Ezekiel. So we read that Jerusalem shall be safely inhabited. It talked about that. And this, now verse 12, at Zechariah 14, verse 12, and this shall be the plague which Yah will strike all the people who fought against Jerusalem. This is after Satan has brought them to come surround Jerusalem. Their flesh shall dissolve while they stand on their feet, their eyes shall dissolve in their sockets, and their tongue shall dissolve in their mouths. And it shall come to pass a great panic from Yah will be among them. Everyone will seize the hand of his neighbor and raise his hand against his neighbor's hand. Judah will also fight at Jerusalem, and the wealth of all the surrounding nations shall be gathered together, gold, silver, and apparel in great abundance. So this to me, verse 12 proves that this is not Armageddon. While Armageddon is with the sword, is a great bloodbath. This is fire from heaven, right? Flesh dissolves, their eyes shall dissolve, and they're burned to death. They're pulverized, just like Sodom and Gomorrah. And then all mankind shall look to the path of uprightness. And then this is verse 16. And it shall come to pass, everyone who is left of all the nations which came against Jerusalem, they decided not to come with Satan. They just kind of stood back and watched. They shall go up from year to year to worship the King, the Eternal of hosts, and keep the Feast of Tabernacles. And it shall be that whichever of the families of the earth do not come up to Jerusalem to worship, whether it's out of fear or anger or whatever, Yah on them, the Eternal on them, there will be no rain. They get punishment. So a lot of folks say, oh, that's at the beginning of the millennium. No, everybody that lives into the millennial reign is fully repented and ready to obey, and they are joyously coming to these feasts. So think about it. Satan comes along, gets people confused. A lot of people go with him to surround Jerusalem to fight, and Yahusha just destroys them. People are going to have loved ones, like I said, family members that went. They're going to be afraid, B, kind of upset. You can see how it's going to take some time to get the world to look. You need to choose this day whom you're going to obey. You're either fully with them, or you need to turn to righteousness. It's kind of like the last wake up call before the great white throne judgment. So, and then this is Yah's way also of testing everyone using Satan before the great white throne judgment. These folks, like I said, Satan's been bound for 1,000 years. The ones born into the millennial reign and very young have no idea what it's like to live in the world that the previous 6,000 years, right? And also, I wanted to add this real fast. I'm sorry, I'm taking a lot of time here, but we're covering some good stuff. I wanted to go to Jubilees. You know how we've speculated how long do folks live that are born into the millennium? So if you go to chapter 23 of Jubilees, I think it indicates that they're going to live for up to 1,000 years. In other words, everybody is going to be tested by Satan at some point. And if you go, you can just jot this down as Jubilees chapter 23, verse 20. We'll start with 26.
Mitzi, does
Yeah.
this include the ones that's going to be resurrected from the dead?
No, because the second resurrection folks have already been tested through Satan because they came out of the first 6,000 years.
Oh, okay.
Does that make sense? It's only the babies born in the millennial reign and young children living into that are clueless to Satan and his devices. So,
I'm sorry, can I just I'm not sure if this is going to give clarity, but the first resurrection happens before the millennial reign. And then we're talking about during the millennial reign right now, how long people that walked in, physical people that walked into the millennial reign, how long they are going to live. And then the second resurrection happens after the millennial reign is over. So go ahead, Mitzi.
yeah. Yeah, now I think the ones that walk into the millennial reign, they do die less than 1,000 years old. But the ones born into perfect air, perfect, I'm just saying this gives evidence that they live up until Satan is released on them.
Mhm.
Okay, again, that's Jubilees 23:27. And the days shall begin to grow many and increase amongst those children of men till their days draw nigh to 1,000 years, and to a great number of years than before was the number of days. And if you look at the context, it says, and in those days the children, the verse 26, shall begin to study the laws and to seek the commandments and to return to the path of righteousness. That's the millennial reign. And the days shall, so he's going to increase the number of the days of the children of men. And there's reference in Isaiah that they will be a child at 100 years old.
What's pretty amazing is when we look at verse 28 of Jubilees, it says, "And there will be no man, no old man, nor one who is not satisfied with his days, for all will be as children and youths."
Yep. And then go on, it says, and all their days shall be complete and live in peace and joy. Obviously, the millennial reign, and there shall be no Satan, no evil destroyer, for all their days shall be days of blessing and healing. So that's the millennial reign. So that's why Yah is fair and just. Nobody's getting into his kingdom without being fully tested. So I wanted to share that because I think this is the testing of the folks in the millennial reign. And then verse 15, now I'm back to Enoch 91. 15, and after this is the 10th week in the seventh part. So now the 10th week, we've moved from Satan's little season to the aftermath of Satan's little season. And now the 10th week, there shall be great eternal judgment. This is the great white throne judgment. So, and then if you put Revelation 20 with this, and Revelation 20 tells you the order. So, verse 7 of Revelation 27, now when the 1,000 years has expired, that was the millennial reign, Satan will be released. He goes out to deceive the nations. They surround Jerusalem. Yah sends great fire from heaven to destroy them. And then the beast, and so the devil, verse 10, who deceived them was cast into the lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and the false prophet were cast or still are, whatever, and they will be tormented day and night forever. Now, verse 11 The great white throne judgment, that starts week 10. Then I saw a great white throne judgment, who sat on it, and from whose face the earth and heaven fled away, and there was no place found for them. Now, verse 12, this is the second resurrection. And I saw the dead, small and great, standing before Yah, and the books were opened, and another book was opened, which is the book of life. And the dead, or the second resurrection folks, were judged according to their works by the things which were written in the books. And it goes on, the sea gave up the dead, death and Hades delivered up the dead who were in them, and they were judged, each one according to his works. And then death and Hades were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death. And anyone not found written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire. So if you get confused, just Revelation 20 gives you the correct order of events.
And we
Re- uh,
also, yeah, and we also find out in Second Esdras that this judgment lasts for 7 years, and it
right.
agrees with the priestly order. So from 20, I think it's 2050 through 2057, or sorry, hold on, let me double check. Yeah, so from 20 or 3051 to 3057, that is week 12, and or sorry, week 10, and that is the 7 years of judgment.
And the address for that in Esdras is chapter 7, verse 43, right? Christina, is that what you have too?
It's chapter 7, verses 31 through 44.
Okay.
So, and then there shall be the great eternal judgment, which is the great white throne judgment. And then Enoch says he will execute vengeance among the angels. And I think he judges the angels first, of course, demons, fallen angels, all of them, and then he moves on to mankind. So that's the order. And then it's clear Satan is not tortured forever and ever. He is literally, I believe it's pretty clear, he's turned into flesh, like we know angels can be turned into, and he is burned to, he's destroyed when he's thrown in the lake of fire. Just like the second resurrection, folks, and we've talked about this in previous um, things, is they come up to not spirit but flesh and bone, just like Adam and Eve were created. So they are subject to burn in the second death. But this is where Yahusha judges all who's ever lived, starting with the angels and goes through all the spirit folks. And I think the ones that are deemed worthy of second death, they're turned into flesh. And then he judges men. And then the ones that are deemed, and we've talked about this before, worthy to live into his kingdom forever, partake of the tree of life. And then they are not subject to the second. When he burns the heavens and the earth is when all wicked men and when everything is destroyed forever. And that's what's referenced here in verse 16. And the first heaven shall depart and pass away, and a new heaven. And this is Revelation 21 and 22. And then a new heavens and a new earth shall appear, and then the heavens shall be given sevenfold light. And then after that will be many weeks without number forever. And only the righteous will remain.
Do I thought I just realized that there's the sevenfold light right there in 91:16. And then back over in 93 when it talks about the bride, um, in verse 10,
Sevenfold.
93:10. that she's going to be receive sevenfold instructions. I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
I think what I remember too is during this time that we're in right now, the tribulation, the sun will also gain 7 times its light. And I think we're already seeing that because, I mean, you can't look at the sun without literally being blinded. I used to be able to look at the sun before and not have a problem with feeling like I'm going to fall asleep. I mean, I could just open my eyes and just stare into the sun. Can't do that these days because the sun is so bright that to try to look into it's a lot more difficult. So the sun is in the process of increasing its light. And I don't know if you guys have noticed that as well, but it does say in Enoch, I'm going to see if I can find it, where the sun does increase in its sunlight.
We know the sun is 7 times the light of the moon from Enoch already at
Right.
creation.
But it still increases during the tribulation. Actually.
The notes I had.
Is that it?
Sorry, that was a lot, wasn't it?
I like it.
So we'll just say, if you go to read his notes, it's anyway, I think with the scriptures um that we've given, hopefully you can prove out that he's kind of all over the place. But I've tried to understand that for a long time. I've heard a lot of versions, and none of them ever made sense. But it's we three we looked at it separately, came together, and we had exactly the same notes. So thought that was interesting, and thought we should share that with you guys.
Okay, so I found it, but it doesn't say how much more. It says in chapter 80, verse 5, and it says here, and in those days the sun shall be seen or shall rise, and he shall journey in the evening on the extremity of the great chariot in the west. So he's going much further north than the Tropic of Cancer. And shall shine more brightly than accords with the order of light, which is 7 times, right? It's the light is 7 times greater than the moon.
And that verse is Enoch 72:37.